Ladies and gentlemen of the media, thank you very much for coming. We know it's a tight day because of the ongoing Linden Commission of Inquiry. Welcome to the GYSM's press conference for today, the first day of October 2012. Of course, it's our first press conference in a very long time, after a very long time that is, and we trust that it's first of many more to come, of course, because we're looking toward developing the youth arm of the People's National Congress Reform. On the panel today with me is Mr. Chris Jones. Of course, most of you would know by now that Chris Jones is the chairman of the Guyana Youth and Student Movement, and he's a member of Parliament in the National Assembly, a partnership for national unity. Immediately next to me is Mr. Ade Levy, who is the National Secretary of the Guyana Youth and Student Movement, and of course Mr. James Bond, Attorney at Law and Member of Parliament, a Partnership for National Unity, and of course he's also a member of the Guyana Youth and Student Movement. I am Malika Ramsey. What's next for Shawnette Adams and the youth of Agricola? Ever since the 11th September 2012 killing of 17-year-old Agricola youth Shaquille Grant, PNCR and APNU attorneys and officials have been at the forefront condemning the shooting and providing comfort to the grieving community. The Guyana Youth and Student Movement, GYSM, has therefore noted the absence of government officials or ministers from the community on the day the youth was gunned down by a member of the Guyana Police Force, and the absence of any government officials or ministers on the day of the funeral. We also wait to see if Human Services and Social Security Ministry, the Youth Culture and Sports Ministry, or the Home Affairs Ministry will ever break their silence and condemn the 11th September 2012 killing of Shaquille Grant. A cause for great concern has been the media reports about the disappearance of two of the policemen allegedly involved in Grant's shooting. Where, when, and how will the mother of Shaquille Grant get justice? During a television interview on the GYSM's One Pulse television program on Wednesday, 26th September 2012, the grieving mother said she wants to open a foundation in the name of her son. She added that the foundation would have a library, cosmetology, catering, information technology, and dancing departments. Adams believes that such a foundation would help the youth of Agricola. The residents of Agricola also want their own policing group because they have absolutely no confidence in the Guyana Police Force. The GYSM fully endorses and supports these sentiments. When will the Minister of Culture, Youth and Sport, Dr. Frank Anthony, begin to implement programs designed to improve the lives of not only the Agricola youths, but youths in communities all across Guyana? One of the mandates of the GYSM is to assist in the development of youths and help secure their future. Lining on street corners will not help to achieve this goal, and certainly should not be considered recreation for youths. But we are very aware that if youths don't have access to recreational facilities and no jobs, that's exactly what will happen. This, we believe, is very unhealthy and unsafe, especially when untrained police officers are allowed to run wild, as was in the case on 11 September 2012 at Agricola. It is against this background that we once again call on Dr. Frank Anthony to provide Guyana with a national youth policy that will see these matters being addressed. In a press release dated Wednesday, 12 September 2012, the GYSM not only condemned the killing of Shaquille Grant, but also recalled that this is not the first time that members of the Guyana Police Force launched an attack on the youths of Agricola. In 2008, ranks of the Guyana Police Force rounded up several young males of that community and had them locked up for days away from relatives, even though no crimes were committed. The GYSM is now calling on Ministers Jennifer Webster and Dr. Frank Anthony to address welfare and development of our youth or find posts more suitable to their talents. We continue to endorse and support APNU's call for the immediate resignation of Home Affairs Minister, Mr. Clement Rogie.
Local artists must be more responsible. The Guyana Youth and Student Movement is calling on all local artists and musicians to exercise more maturity and responsibility in recording and promoting their music. Though we fully support the development and growth of local artists, we are totally against the lyrics that damage and or undermine the moral structure of society. We recognize the lyrics of 2 recently released songs by local artists and are very disappointed by the vulgar tones and connotation of the music. Local artists must keep in mind that our children, especially very young children, now learning songs, phrase, and words, can easily become accustomed to these lyrics, thus reciting them like poems. The lyrics of the 2 recently released songs, namely the Bamsey Tune and the Dangles, are degrading to young women and girls. We believe that entertainment must be combined with education and good morals to promote the proper and wholesome development of our nation's youth. We call on television stations, pushcart operators, minibus operators, and even internet managers to minimize, if not completely cease, the public hearing of the Dangles and the Bamsey song. Thank you.
Youth development. The state of youth affairs in Guyana is horrible. Youths are deprived of education, training opportunities, high-quality health care, income-generating activities and jobs. Their lives are therefore marred by poverty, dependency, dislocation, and exploitation. This has had a dire effect on the entire country. The damaged young people are suffering physically, psychologically, socially, and politically, and economically, at the hands of the PP administration, if unchanged, will render them incapable of effectively fulfilling their social, economic, and productive roles in society. The future of the country will be lost if we continue to ignore the obvious needs of young men and women and their potential. The Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture has failed to formulate inclusive, cohesive, and constructive strategies for positive engagement and does not even initiate dialogue with the context of a agreed national youth policy. Comprehensive strategy to create jobs locally to tackle the migration problem in Guyana is nowhere in sight. But more than 60% of the labor force engaged in small to medium-sized enterprise, SMEs as they're known, the small SMEs should be an integral part of Guyana job creation strategy. But this will require that capital and technical support be made available for businesses of all sizes. At present, very few businesses have access to concessory capital through microfinance institutions. There is a missing finger for firms seeking to grow their businesses from small to medium to large, and for individuals willing to start businesses at the middle levels. It is important to address this capital gap. The PPC over the last 20 years have set up a number of programs which all have failed to meet the needs of youths in Guyana, such as the President Youth Choice Initiative and the Youth Entrepreneurial Skills Training are just 2 of the programs, which were intended to create employment for young people, but it has signally failed. A more carefully thought out approach based on realistic assessment of the condition of young people of Guyana would be the preferred and recommended thing to do. The Guyana Youth and Student Movement, GYSM, implored the government to do the following. 1, to re-engineer the education system from nursery to university, including infrastructure, so that education can become more accessible to all youths, regardless of geological location, gender, class, disability, or race. 2, remove all inequalities within the social-economic system so that the primary needs of youths are met. 3, provide the business and economic infrastructure to attract great investment and enhance opportunity for youth employment. 4, diversify the economy and develop the informal sector of focusing on non-traditional areas of employment. Develop a credible, recognized, experience-based capacity building, training, and project management programs for youth leadership. And finally, promote culture and sports as a mechanism for employment and wealth creation in Guyana.
Thank you. PNCR celebrates its 55th anniversary. The Guyana Youth and Student Movement joins the other arms of the party, district and regions of the PNCR, in congratulating the party as it observes its 55th anniversary. There is no doubt that the PNCR has made enormous contributions to the growth and development of Guyana. It was during the days of the PNC in office that Guyanese were lifted out of poverty and could aspire to a higher standard of living and feel proud that our country is second to none in the world. Today the same cannot be said. As part of the anniversary observance, the GYSM will be conducting 3 book fairs around the country. These fairs are scheduled for the following days and locations. October 6th at Seafield, Sophia. October 13th at Litchfield and the west coast of Berbice. October 20th at Golden Grove on the east coast of Demerara. It's the view of the GYSM that education is essential to the nation's survival and renewal. We all agree that reading nourishes the mind by providing information and knowledge that is needed to bring about change. Educationists believe that children who grew up reading good books definitely stand out. The way they think and act is very different from those who have never been exposed to reading. Reading not only adds their general knowledge, but also shapes their personalities. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our statement. You are free to post questions on this statement and any other matter that you'd like to read. But we're taking questions on the statement first. Could you use the microphone? It's in the chair in front of you.
Cartoon Tina Henry. The president asked the UN to review the copyright laws to permit them to get the pirated copies of the textbooks. What does the youth have to say about that?
I think I'd ask the attorney or attorney at law, Mr. Wan, to respond to that question.
Well, I don't want to preempt how the UN will vote or things of that suggestion. But I find it disturbing that at the head of state, in view that there were opportunities that presented itself prior to the photocopying, for him to have permission to use the textbooks with the consent of the publishers and the writers, for him now to skip that step, go and photocopy, which is an infringement and a breach on the rights of the publishers and writers, their intellectual property. For him now to go to UN with those facts, that history, it would be unimaginable for any governing body of heads of state to now sanction what the president or what the government of Guyana had done in the past. This is in direct violation, and I think the whole culture of abusing the rights of authors and publishers and songwriters is testament to what we have here in Guyana, where no rights and privileges are accorded to our writers and publishers and our songwriters. Persons are using pirated DVDs. So the culture exists in Guyana. That action by the president to now go to the UN, I think it's not only unwise, but I do think that it's the first, what should be done now is for him to meet with the authors and not with the UN, meet with the authors, the publishers, and enter an arrangement with them. Because the UN cannot sanction a wrong. That's the point I'm trying to get at. The UN cannot sanction a wrongdoing in this regard. If they were to do that, we open the floodgates for any person, any heads of state, not only heads of government, but even we send a wrong message to ordinary citizens that it's okay to break the law for the sake of expediency or otherwise.
Apart from that, what do you think? What kind of message do you think this is sending to our local intellectual and artistic persons who may want to, promote something? Because I do believe probably Guyana have persons that could produce the same materials and whatnot. What do you think that spells for persons, knowing that Guyana has no copyright law to protect their work? Is that undermining the local intellectual minds and artistic persons?
Of course. You would find that persons are not motivated to write. I'm a writer myself. I was shortlisted for the Guyana Prize a few years back. I have 3 novels. But we have no protection. So if you want to, writers they don't have the means where they could publish, even to self-publish. You may self, but nothing stops the government today or any person from taking your material, photocopying it, and selling it. And you see, what you understand is that persons are making money off of your own gifts, and you can't make a living out of it. So you find, as you would know, our poets and our writers and our songwriters are amongst the poorest of persons in the country, because they are not rewarded for their talents. Their talents are not protected, and it only sends a bad message to them that the government does not care. But it also sets any improvement we would have expected. It sets back that progress that we would have expected, because persons are now going to be further discouraged from writing textbooks or doing children nursery school rhymes or doing maths, CXC maths text. Because they're going to say, if I do this, invest my hard-earned money in this, nothing stops the government of the day from taking my book, photocopying it, and using it giving it to the schools for free.
Based on that, is there a particular message you would send to the Minister of Culture? Do you think that Parliament should review the copyright laws in Guyana?
Well, for one, I think the Minister knows. Persons, as a writer, I know for a fact we would have engaged the Ministry in terms of a number of things. And as a result of, I think, of our engagement on the Guyana Prize issue, that the President commissioned, I think, a $20 million fund in which Dr. David Davidine manages, and they're now doing books, bringing back books from another era and publishing them and making them available. I do believe the problem is known, but the political will to fix the problem is what is lacking. There needs to be not only a revisiting of the law, but there also needs to be investing in the arts. Holding a drama festival is not going to do you any good. It's good, yes, at the end of the day, once a year they get to act and everybody sees their talents, but after then what? What do they do? Are they made into movies? Is there going to be exporting of their talents? That's not the case. So the same with writing. there needs to be what we may call a school of writers or publishers in which we allow persons with these talents to come. If not, they want to self-publish. We're going to publish their material, see what talent they have, not for the writers 50 years ago or 70 years ago, but the writers of today. It's good to look back and develop, bring forward those books that were written back in the day, but the current crop of writers, you're not hearing of anybody, you're not seeing anybody because there's no direct investment in that. And part of the culture, part of the problem is, yes, the unavailability of laws, but also greater than that is the unavailability of publishers of financing for these projects.
Okay, no more questions. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to our press conference. We look forward to seeing you next time.